It is official. Here we go. Here we go. We are live. Help a Teacher Facebook live every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central. Put it on the calendar like clockwork. Man, I was looking at the episode number, episode 59. My life is flying past me. And I'll tell you what, more than ever, here's what I think. I have a theory about that is when you have a profession like education, when you're in the space you're supposed to be and you're obsessed with it and you're passionate about it and you love it. And as crazy as it is right now with in school, online, wacky hybrid combination of the two, man, life it just seems to go by so fast. I mean, it's so I think because of the number of hours and it just kind of like a chaos in the schedule constantly. Man, time is flying by. I mean, it's a we just I thought it was just Christmas and now it's almost February. So here we go. All right, so tonight we haven't I think this is one of our first guests where we can really dig into this topic, and that is bridging the gap between K-12 education and the workforce and industry. And now more than ever, I think this is an important conversation to have, as when you look at what's going on with universities, and now especially, I mean, now lots of kids aren't even physically there, they're online anyway, and they're just racking up tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and they're oftentimes taking classes that they're just simply not interested in, but it's a prerequisite for a degree they're going into. And what we have kids coming out in lower level positions with jobs that just certainly just doesn't earn them enough to even keep up with the debt that they just racked up in school. And what I'm passionate about are those kids that discover that they love a trade, and those kids that just discover that they're just like kinesthetic learners and they love whether it's welding or engineering, and it's just amazing what's going on in so many schools. And one of the guys I know that is super passionate about all of that is the newly crowned Dr. Daryl Porter, and he is over in Crowley ISD. And I know back in his coaching days, he's made the tour from school to school, and he was teaching social studies, all those fun classes that we all wish we were teaching, like psychology and sociology and all that stuff. And he ended up over at up in Crowley and serving up there as assistant principal and then principal, and now he is over P-Tech and CTE innovation for the district. And he's all about somehow figuring out how we can best serve our kids that are going to go right from high school and thankfully into our workforce. Dr. Daryl, what's up, brother? Thank you for joining us, man.
Man, hey, I appreciate you having me. Thanks for this opportunity. This is a good little platform to talk about all of those things that you were just explaining, that gap. And man, I'm just super excited to be here.
Hey man, let me ask you this. At what point in your career, because when you in every position, I think it's true with all positions within the school, but especially the ones you've had, when you're coaching, especially in Texas, it has to be all in. You're obsessed with it. That's your life, and everything else comes second. But then when you become an administrator, same thing. And then you're building principal, same thing. And at what point did you start thinking about CTE, career technology education, and preparing kids to go right from high school into the workforce?
So, man, that's a great question. I think I started thinking about it really when I started serving as an assistant principal. So when you're an assistant principal, you're put over certain pathways and in certain departments. Now, CTE was never one of my departments that I was over, but that accountability, those classes that our students take, they impact the entire school. And so no matter what department you're in, you're always hearing about it. You're always learning a little more about career and technology education. And so I think when I started that shift from the teacher to the administrator role, that's when I really got exposed to it. Now, when I entered into taking over the campus, I I had to learn a little bit more about it, because those trades, those trade type of classes, the CTE classes, that's part of your accountability in the state of Texas. Really, it's part of a big chunk of 40% of your accountability. And so that's when I started digging in a little deeper. I always tell our current CTE principal that I wish I would have listened to her a little bit more a couple years ago. Now I feel like I've really engulfed myself in the CTE realm and understand a lot more. But man, if I knew this information back when I was running a campus, or back when I was running a department as an assistant principal, I think it would have helped a
Yeah,
ton.
for sure. You know what I love about it is here, there's so many stories I have, but one is I love that I was in a small town, speaking out in a small town, Texas, and I was working with some kids, and I would see them in their academic classes. I mean, I'm talking head down, just disengaged. It's so not their thing. But later that afternoon, I took a tour, what they call their barn. But what happens in the barn is they had a lathe in there, metal lathe, and they had welding was happening, those types of things. And those same kids that were so disconnected, I mean, they were there early. I mean, the bell rang and they're like trying to kick him out of there, but they're trying, because they're trying to finish their project. And it's that kind of kid, that kinesthetic kid, but also they're not into the abstract. They love to see their work. Do you know what I mean? Like, they love to see what they're doing. They love to see their own progress. When you're in geometry class, it's really hard to see evidence that you're becoming better at geometry. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I say this all the time, especially to my wife. So I enjoy cooking, and I kind of picked up woodworking. Not great at either of them, but I enjoy it. And I think a lot of it is because it's that instant gratification of this is what I've built, or this is what I've
Yeah.
made. Whereas in a lot of subjects, like you were talking about in geometry or in administration, the fruits of your labor, they don't come until, months, years, maybe even decades down the road. And so I think we all have that at least a little sense of, we want to see that final product, and we want to see what we're doing matters.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think CTE in those trade education hits those type of learners, and hits those type of students who really want that instant gratification.
In addition to that, what I also love is there's so much opportunity right now for a kid with great work ethic. And here's what I love: when I go to schools, whether it's in Waller or Quitman, Texas, or Orangefield, or even in the more suburban schools, Grand Prairie, where it's not just the technical skills, not just the labor skills, but they're also embedded in that education, is what they call, I don't know why they call them soft skills, because they're certainly not. They're absolutely critical skills. I'm just talking yes sir, no sir, shaking hands, having contact, basic human communication. I'm trying to say the word communication. That, when these kids go into the workforce, they're prepared, and it's powerful to see. I mean, a kid's life is being changed.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that point up. In a lot of our programs, anywhere from engineering to cosmetology to culinary to now we're bringing in aviation maintenance and distribution and logistics. A part of that framework for CTE is developing those skills. So I had to actually sit down when I was developing this aviation maintenance and distribution and logistics program. You've got to sit down with. And here's another great thing about this type of learning is you get to connect with business and industry partners. And so I'm sitting down as a team, we're sitting down with these business and industry partners and planning out a student's year by year work-based education. And a lot of that involves mock interviews. Let's learn how to write a resume. Let's learn how to properly network and talk to one another. And so those things are actually embedded in many of the programs that you see. And you're right, it's more than just an endorsement. It's more than just getting a specific skill that has to do with something on paper. It's those soft skills that you're talking about.
Yeah, man, it's almost as if I just have many examples of many times the CTE kids are just way more prepared in that area. I can tell you, just listening to my daughter talk, she's an RA at her school in the dorm. And in the dorm, it was just shocking to her how so many parents are bringing their kids to check into the dorm. And the kid doesn't talk. Mom talks for the kid, and mom asks all the questions, and mom gets the key, and mom and dad take care of it, where the kid just really isn't prepared
Yeah.
yet. But a lot of times, because we know our CTE kids are going right into the workforce, that's basically been an emphasis.
Yeah. No, and it's a big skill that our students need to understand. And CTE has found a way, whether, embedded in the curriculum or just a part of what the teacher is teaching, they found a way to interject. And that's not to say that, your core content teachers don't do that. But it's almost like those trades and those CTE classes call for that. I mean, we were talking earlier, you can sit in a geometry class and it's about geometry. It's about getting the answer to this problem or finding the solution through steps and working all the way through. Whereas in, let's say, construction, you still have to get from one thing to another. But then there's that extra layer of, okay, how am I going to market this? How am I going to sell my product? How am I going to sell myself? How am I going to make money utilizing this trade or this instruction that I'm gathering?
I think when I just look at the when these kids leave and they have a certification and they have an endorsement, and they might go right into the workforce. Some of them might go, and continue, get more certifications and more endorsements. But what Trisha's talking about is, I mean, just the amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. I know one of the examples over, I wanted to say, I'm not sure. I want to say it's Waller Independent School District, and they have a huge welding program over there. And one of their partners, that they asked, well, addition to learning the trade and learning the skill.
I think the overarching goal is allowing them the opportunity to find what they're truly passionate about. A lot of times, and I think you posted the article on the Facebook page, but I've read this article multiple times, coming from Forbes. A lot of times we, in a sense, pigeonhole our students to thinking that everyone has to a 4-year university, which that's a great route. But I think the ultimate goal is creating that I'm gonna equate it to equity. I'm gonna creating that opportunity, that equitable opportunity for all kids to learn and to understand where it is that their passion lies. And I'm excited. Just can kind of give you an example. I've heard with our P-TECH program, and P-TECH stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School. So it's an early college high school, but it's an early college high school for trades. So these students get these dual credit opportunities. And what I've heard from our applicants, what I've read from because they've got to fill out an application and do some essays, particularly with this aviation maintenance, there's a lot of students who are interested or have grown up around the automotive industry and may not know that their passion lies beyond the car.
Yeah.
So we can do the same thing on an airplane, and it's just creating those opportunities that, it exposes them to something that they may not necessarily be exposed to.
Yeah, man, I just love that. You're right. And even, I mean, it's been going on for years. I really think we're getting better at it. But I didn't know back when I was in school, in the late 70s, all through the 80s, even in the early through the 90s, back when I was teaching in the 90s, it really was pushing all kids into this 4-year plan. And, I think what we end up with is a whole bunch of people locked into professions they're not really passionate about
Yeah.
because I don't know what I'm going to study. I guess I'll go to college and I'll major in psychology because everybody does that. And then they figure, well, I'm not probably won't make any money, so I'm going to switch to business. And then
Yeah.
they get it, and now they have to go find a job once they graduate, because they have a business degree, and they end up at Enterprise Rent a Car because that company hires more college graduates than anybody on the planet. And
Yeah.
now they're stuck at Enterprise. I don't think they're really passionate about renting cars to people, but that's the job they have now, rather than taking time through high school and have an opportunity to think, man, what am I really passionate about? What do I want to do? What would I love to do and happen to make money at?
Yeah. And you talk about that cycle, that's a cycle that I think is it can potentially be a generational cycle, to where this is what my parents did, and I may not necessarily be passionate about it, but they went into business, so I've got to get into business. And then all along the way, they are, they're accumulating all of this debt potentially.
Yeah.
And so they're paying for college, and like you said earlier, they may not be making, especially starting off, they may not be making enough to pay all of that back, and then it lasts years and years and years uh, with interest. And so one of the great things about a lot of CTE programs is there's this thing called dual technical credit that many districts that around, at least our area, I can only speak for our area, they offer this dual technical credit that's combined with their local community college. And a lot of districts offer this for free. So students have the opportunity to get an associate's degree in distribution and logistics, or to get an associate's degree, or a level 1, level 2 certification in automotive or aviation maintenance for free. You get 2 years worth of college, in the district pays for it for you. And
Yeah.
on top of getting those industry-based certifications, I'll give you an example of an industry-based certification. You walked in, if you're getting your oil change, you walk into the auto shop and you see on the wall the ASE certifications. Students can get that, and do get that in high school. And so they can leave high school with those ASE certifications, walk into a good paying job with no debt.
Yeah.
So it's just an opportunity if that's the route that they want to go to.
That's the thing. And, what I do know is this. I know Trisha is sharing her success story where she has Colby, and how he just wasn't down with the academics, and now he out earns her with his, working in HVAC. And there's stories everywhere that I know.
Mhm.
For me, in one of my co-teaching classes, we had Chris, and he was all about auto repair and just loved the engine, the whole thing. And he got certified out there. His first job was, somehow he ended up at a giant company that maintains pools. And then he fell in love with pools. And now he owns a pool design company that all
Wow.
started just because he was doing what he loved, and he found something else that he loved, found something else he loved, rather than getting locked into what I should do and what I have to do. And now I have to get a job because I have to pay my loan back.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different world. And I'm just so thankful that kids now have such an opportunity, and schools are finally seeing that.
Yeah. Schools are finally seeing that, and industry partners. I keep going back to that, but you think about, I think you mentioned Waller earlier. Think about how that company is impacting the community as a whole, because they decided to partner with their district, learn how these students are learning. A lot of times as K-12 educators, we have to adjust. Obviously, we have to adjust our teaching and our instruction to the industry standards, which we'll do that because the ultimate goal is to prepare the kid for the industry. But what you're seeing now is you're seeing these industry partners, they're embedding themselves in districts in school districts, particularly with their CTE program, they're learning how students learn, and they're almost adapting their models to how students learn. Because let's face it, the way you and I learned in high school or the way that we were taught
Right.
is completely different. And so the
Yeah.
impact on the community is huge with this as well.
And finally, what I love is just seeing these kids get the recognition they deserve. I think we do a good job of signing day for athletes, and then we finally got some signing days for, we were posting what kid got accepted to what college, and meanwhile, there's some kid that's leaving the welding program about to go make $60,000 a year on Monday morning,
Right.
and no one's celebrating that kid.
Right.
And he
Right.
loves it, and he's awesome at it. He's won a bunch of competitions, and what I love is finally, we're seeing some recognition for those kids as well.
Yeah, it's matter of fact, I was on the phone with one of our graduation coaches earlier today, and we were trying to figure out different routes and different avenues for several students, and a lot of students that we're talking about, they haven't even finished high school yet, and they've obtained the necessary certifications and skills to be able to go on and on Monday morning go make $60,000. And so now they're being, those students are being talked about. They're being exposed. They're being celebrated. There are plans built around what they're doing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you're right. The signing days are huge, and I've heard of districts having CTE signing days. Matter of fact, with our P-Tech, I'm wanting to order one of those big backdrops, and as soon as the student makes that decision and gets the acceptance, we'll give them a hat. They'll put on the hat, little P-Tech hat, do their little signature, take a picture, and we'll post it all over Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and MySpace if you still got it.
Hey, what's the for you in your district? What is the process for kids learning about different opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are actually trying to hone in on the process to expose our students earlier. So I guess the pinnacle of that process is 8th grade endorsement night. And so that's where our students get the opportunity to choose the endorsement at 8th grade. But years, and this has been years in the making. We've got some phenomenal administrators in our district, and they've recognized that, hey, we probably need to start exposing our students even as early as second, third, fourth grade to these opportunities. We've got 29 different programs of study in our district. And so within the middle schools, our middle schools are 6th through 8th grade. There are classes, CTE classes, the Gateway to Technology classes. And so these kids are actually getting a comprehensive look at what we're offering just through curriculum. And then we're connecting that. We're trying to bridge that gap and connecting elementary students with CTE programs. And we've done that through a program of which we called STEM Plus. And what they do is they go in, I think it's once or twice a week. These students are embedded in a curriculum that expose them to different programs of study or different pathways that they could potentially choose whenever they're an 8th grader.
Yeah. And I think I really think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I know that there's districts like yours that are way kind of ahead of the curve and they're prepared for it, but I really think that just with the ever increasing college debt, and now more than ever, kids are finding resources online and attending classes online. I really think there is just going to be the snowball effect, and more and more and more kids are going to find their way into the CTE programs, and really look at that as a viable pathway that lots of kids haven't looked at before.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun being kind of on the, I guess the I don't know what you would call it, but the start of all of that exposure, or kind of in the middle of that snowball, because once it becomes a huge snowball, then it's phenomenal. You get to see throughout your career all of the students that become successful because of the programs that you are a part of building and creating, and you get to have that sense of giving back. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's coming. It's coming.
Are you guys? I know Susie Mitchell. She's the CTE director over in Hayes. I know one of the big things they added was barber, and they added the fire academy and all
Yeah.
kinds of cool stuff. Tell me what's coming? What do you kind of have your eye on in the future as far as adding?
Yeah, so we're actually adding a couple new programs next year, and the way that these programs are built is, high demand, high wage programs within the area. So certain areas in the state of Texas, there's some programs may outperform as far as wage or demand than other programs, and so we wouldn't have like a marine biology in North Texas. Whereas I'm not saying that's a program, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
But we're close to a bunch of airfields. So we are next year bringing in that aviation maintenance program. And then we're also bringing aviation flight. So we're bringing those two programs in. We've got kind of the newness of a distribution and logistics program. And since this pandemic, that that career field has boomed.
Yeah.
And so now, we've got that warehouse lab. And so those are some programs that we're, looking at bringing in an EMT program, which is just combining, which is, you never knew this. You got your medical, you got your students who want to, serve in the medical field, and you got your students who want to serve in the law enforcement. The EMT kind of merges them together. And
Yeah.
so those are some programs that we've got our eye on, that we're actually, diligently working to bring in. And I'm sorry, UAV, UAS, the drones, the unmanned autonomous system. That's going to be another program within our
That's a
PT.
thing.
That's a thing. That's a thing. And I'm going to tell you, it's a regional program of study right now in Region 11. But one of the great things that we've done, because a drone in the end really is just a platform. It's a tool. Now you can engineer the software within it. You can engineer the parts and build the parts. But in the end, and you can use it for all kinds of different opportunities. You can be a photographer. You can use it in construction. You can use it in law enforcement. You can use it in ag. What we found is we're going to actually merge it with that geospatial information technology, the systems, GIS. And that's how we're going to learn how to take pictures of land, take information, the raster based, and be able to teach our kids how to interpret that information utilizing UAV, UAS. So that's a new one on the horizon.
Yeah, I can just see you in your office immersing yourself trying to learn all this. Like, how am I gonna kick this program off? I don't even know what it means.
Man, it's been a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error. Um, I will say, when I present to middle schools, I bring a drone, and I connect it to my cell phone, and I fly it around the room and almost hit people in the face, which I don't. But I'm learning that aspect too, and really, it's that field is vast, and so vast. I mean, it's so new that many colleges around the area in the state of Texas don't carry credited programs in UAV or UAS. So
It's awesome, man. It's just, I mean, this is like the time. This is the exciting time of all these programs. And what I love about it is just the regional importance of it that you guys are looking at. Like, what do we have in our area?
yeah,
Let's not just have welding, just have welding. Let's get something specifically where these kids can get employed right now, and where there is not just an interest, but more just an interest and a need. When you pair that, that's
yeah,
like that's where the magic happens.
yeah, and luckily, I talk about all the time. You've got to surround yourself with people that know more than you do. And luckily, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people with Annette Duval and Dr. Markiba Warfield, and they've got a really, really good grasp on the CTE, and really are teaching me a lot. And big things are happening. Big things are happening.
All right. One of my favorite homies, Trisha, she says MVCC in Utica, New York. Man, you need anything. They got the drone program, the 2-year degree up there. You call them. They'll answer any questions you have.
I love that. I love that. I love seeing that because that's progressive to me, right? So when you've got a lot of community college in a specific area that don't offer certain programs of study, particularly public. Now you've got some private colleges that may aviation colleges that would offer it. But I love seeing that, and I love seeing that there are people out there that see the potential in not only drones, but unmanned automated system. The UAS portion of it. To give you an example, you go to a grocery store, do the self checkout. That's a UAS. That's that unmanned autonomous. I mean that nobody's working that. You're doing it yourself, and so it's all around us. It's coming.
Yeah.
And we just we got to have our eyes open and be prepared to adapt.
It's awesome, man. Hey, listen, brother, I appreciate you so much. I'm glad you're passionate about it. I'm glad that kids have you leading this program. There's so many kids that this is perfect for. And finally, it's like they have a champion in their corner up there in Crowley.
Yeah, well, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate your work, man. I appreciate your friendship. I'm glad our teachers and our educators have a champion like you to really expose every aspect of education. So thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, brother. Have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
Right. You too.
And also special thanks to our co-host, Trisha. She's amazing.
Love it.
Take care, brother.